Nobody wanted to face the rude billionaire CEO until the maid's daughter took a stand. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. In the high-rise heart of the city, amidst polished marble floors and glittering glass windows, billionaire CEO James Donovan ran his empire with an iron fist. Donovan was known for his sharp mind, his impeccable taste, and most of all, his cold, ruthless demeanor. His presence in any room commanded immediate respect, often with a touch of fear. But while many feared him, no one dared challenge him. At least, not until one unexpected moment. In the corner of his sleek conference room, under the bright lights that gleamed off the luxury furniture, sat a small, almost invisible figure, Lily, the maid's daughter. She was only 12, but her bright blue eyes observed everything, every conversation, every gesture. Lily wasn't supposed to be here. The room was reserved for the city's most powerful. Yet, there she was, holding the vacuum, cleaning the floors, her movements soft and unnoticed. The air in the room was thick with power, and Lily, who came from nothing, knew her place. She was told to keep her head down, never speak unless spoken to. She knew better than to attract attention. But today was different. Today, the billionaire CEO, James Donovan, sat at the head of the table, surrounded by his top executives. They were discussing a multi-million-dollar deal, the kind of conversation that would decide the future of industries. As always, Donovan's voice cut through the room, sharp and commanding. "If we don't get this deal by the end of the week, I'll make sure every single one of you regrets it," he said, his eyes cold and unwavering. His words hung in the air, thick with threat. Everyone nodded, fearful of crossing him. Then, as he turned his gaze toward the corner of the room where Lily was quietly working, he smirked. "And what about this little girl?" Donovan sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. "Is she part of the deal too?" The room fell silent for a moment. Everyone froze, uncomfortable with the sudden attention on Lily. She was used to this, used to being invisible, used to being dismissed. But something in her shifted in that moment. She had heard enough of his cruelty, of his condescending remarks towards the staff. And then, without thinking, Lily spoke. "You don't know anything about me," she said quietly, but firmly. Her voice was small, but it carried a weight that even the billionaire CEO couldn't ignore. Donovan raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "Oh, really? What do you think you know that I don't, little girl?" he asked, his tone mocking. Lily didn't back down. "I know what it's like to work hard," she said, her eyes meeting his. "I know what it's like to be dismissed. But I also know that I'm more than what you see. You might be the richest man in this room, but money doesn't make you better than anyone else." The room went still. James Donovan, the man who controlled millions, who made people tremble with his power, was speechless. The executives exchanged uncertain glances, unsure how to react. Lily stood there, small yet unwavering, her words echoing in the room like a challenge. The rich and powerful in the room couldn't fathom why she would speak up. After all, she was just the maid's daughter. But there she was, standing tall, facing the very man they all feared. And little did anyone know, this small act of defiance was just the beginning. What happened next would shake the foundation of James Donovan's world. Stay tuned for what happens when the maid's daughter takes a stand. The room remained silent for a moment, the weight of Lily's words hanging in the air. Even the bustling hum of the office outside seemed to quiet in comparison. James Donovan stood there, frozen, his sharp features momentarily softened by the unexpected defiance of a mere maid's daughter. His usual control over every situation was slipping, and for the first time in years, he found himself unsure of how to respond. The executives around the table, who had witnessed countless displays of power, looked on in disbelief. This was not the kind of challenge they were used to. They had seen CEOs fight over millions, fought for the top spot, but they had never seen anyone challenge the very essence of their leader's arrogance. The silence was finally broken by Donovan's cold laugh. "Well, aren't you bold?" he sneered, clearly trying to recover from the shock. "What exactly do you think you're doing here, little girl?" This is not your world. Lily stood her ground. Despite the uncertainty that churned inside her, she wasn't backing down. She had seen enough, heard enough. The years of silently watching the injustice around her had built up. It was time to make her voice heard. I think you're wrong, she replied calmly, her voice carrying a firmness that belied her age. I may not be in your world, but that doesn't mean I don't know right from wrong. Donovan's face twisted in a mixture of disbelief and amusement. Right from wrong? He scoffed, stepping closer. You think you know what's right? You're just a cleaning girl, a nobody in a room full of somebodies. You have no power here. The words stung, but Lily didn't flinch. She was used to being dismissed, to being treated like she didn't matter. But this time, something inside her refused to accept it. The other executives, who had been silent spectators until now, started to murmur among themselves, sensing the tension rising. They had never seen Donovan, the untouchable billionaire, questioned like this. It was almost as if they were witnessing the fall of a giant. And it wasn't just the CEO who was shaken. Lily's boldness had ignited something in the room, a spark of rebellion that no one had expected. For a moment, Donovan looked like he might lash out, but then he stopped. He looked at Lily, really looked at her for the first time. In her simple clothes, standing in the midst of million-dollar suits and designer ties, she was a stark contrast. And yet, in that moment, she held a quiet power. The realization hit him like a wave. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't intimidated by his wealth, his status, or his threats. And that terrified him. James Donovan, the man who had made millions by manipulating others, was now at a loss for words. You want to teach me a lesson? He asked, his voice quieter now, a flicker of uncertainty in his tone. Lily didn't respond right away. She simply looked at him, her eyes steady, her posture calm but unwavering. The room waited, holding its collective breath. Finally, she spoke. No, she said softly, but with a strength that filled the space. I don't need to teach you anything. You'll learn it yourself. The room was dead silent as Lily turned to leave, her small frame walking across the floor that had once seemed so imposing. But as she reached the door, she paused, glancing back over her shoulder. One day, she said, her voice carrying a sense of quiet certainty, you'll see that power isn't about money. It's about respect. And with that, she left the room, the sound of her footsteps echoing in the silence behind her. The executives stared after her, the reality of the situation sinking in. James Donovan stood there for a moment longer, his thoughts racing. The challenge had been unexpected, but the words of the maid's daughter resonated within him. Power wasn't about money. It was about respect. It was a lesson he had never anticipated learning from someone like her. But as the room began to stir again, the seed of doubt had already been planted in Donovan's mind. He had never been challenged like this before, and in that moment, he knew that things would never be the same. Days passed since Lily's bold stand against the billionaire CEO, but the atmosphere in the office remained charged. James Donovan couldn't shake the words of the maid's daughter from his mind. He had heard plenty of insults, critiques, and challenges in his life, but none had been like this. She was just a child, yet her words had pierced through his armor of arrogance. Power isn't about money. It's about respect. It kept echoing in his head, louder with every passing hour. It was an uncomfortable thought, one that undermined everything he believed about himself and the world he had built. The next few days were a blur of meetings, press calls, and endless financial reports. But no matter how hard he tried, Donovan couldn't escape the lingering image of Lily standing there in that sterile boardroom, facing him without fear. He tried to dismiss it, tried to push it aside, but it was like an itch he couldn't scratch. The next morning, Donovan made an unexpected decision. He called for a meeting with his top executives, but this time, he also insisted that Lily be present. The request was met with confusion. Why would a 12-year-old be needed in such a critical discussion? But Donovan was firm, and the meeting was scheduled. When Lily entered the boardroom, there was a palpable shift in the energy. Her presence wasn't as unnoticed as it had been before. She was no longer the invisible cleaning girl. Now, all eyes were on her. The executives whispered among themselves, unsure of what this was about. As for Lily, she felt the weight of the room's gaze on her, but she stood tall. Donovan, who had been pacing at the head of the room, finally addressed her. You wanted respect, didn't you? He said, his voice still carrying a hint of the earlier condescension. But there was something else there now, a grudging respect. Lily met his gaze, unflinching. I didn't want your respect. I wanted you to understand that it's not about being above others. It's about treating everyone with dignity, she said calmly, her voice steady. The room grew quiet. It was as if Donovan's words had opened a door, but Lily's response had slammed it shut. The billionaire CEO, known for his control over everyone and everything, now seemed like the one who was being taught a lesson. Donovan leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. For the first time, he wasn't sure how to respond. His sharp mind, which had always been able to analyze and outmaneuver anyone, seemed inadequate in this moment. Lily's words had hit him where it mattered most. His sense of self-worth, the very foundation of his empire. After a long pause, Donovan spoke again, his voice softer this time. I've built this company by stepping on others, thinking that my wealth and status were what mattered, he admitted, his eyes flicking over to the other executives, who were now watching him with a mix of surprise and curiosity. But you're right. Power isn't just about wealth. It's about the respect you give to those around you. Lily nodded, but she didn't smile. She wasn't here for validation. She was here for change. The rest of the meeting went by in a blur, with Donovan making decisions he'd never considered before. He promised to increase wages for the staff, to treat them with more fairness, and to lead with a greater sense of empathy. The executives were stunned, unsure of what had come over their leader. But they followed his lead, albeit reluctantly. As the meeting ended, Donovan turned to Lily, who was about to leave. You've changed the way I see things, he said quietly, his voice tinged with something he hadn't expected to feel, humility. Thank you. Lily looked up at him, meeting his gaze. It's not about me, she said. It's about making sure everyone is treated with the same respect, no matter who they are. With that, she turned and walked out of the room, leaving behind a man who had once seen himself as invincible, but now had a lot more to think about. Weeks passed, and the ripple effects of Lily's bold stand continued to echo throughout the company. James Donovan's transformation wasn't just a momentary change, but the beginning of something deeper. He started making decisions that had once seemed unthinkable. He no longer saw his employees as mere cogs in the machine, but as individuals deserving of respect. Lily's words had pierced through his self-made armor, and now, he was committed to proving that he could lead with integrity and empathy. It wasn't easy. Donovan had built his empire on power and control, and breaking free from that mindset took time. But every small change mattered. He started showing up earlier at the office, not to inspect the numbers or crush competition, but to walk through the hallways, greet his employees, and ask them about their day. He even took the time to personally thank the cleaning staff, remembering how Lily had pointed out the importance of dignity. The most surprising change came when he called a meeting with the entire company. Standing in front of hundreds of employees, he addressed them with a sincerity he had never shown before. I've spent years thinking that success was about how much money we made and how much power we held, he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. But that's not true. I've learned that true success is measured by the respect we give each other. It's about making sure everyone has a voice, no matter their role. The room was silent at first, the employees unsure of how to react. It was rare for someone like Donovan to speak this way. But as he continued, more people began to nod in agreement. Lily's impact had been far greater than she could have imagined. She had sparked a change in the man who had once looked down on people like her. And even though Lily wasn't in the room, she felt the shift. She continued her work, still invisible to most, but she knew that things had changed. She didn't need recognition. She just needed to know that what she did mattered. One day, as she was cleaning the executive offices, Donovan walked in. This time, he wasn't there to give orders or hold meetings. He was just there, walking alongside her, as if they were equals. He stopped in front of her, his expression thoughtful. Lily, he said, his voice calm but sincere. I've made some mistakes in the past. I treated people like you as invisible, as if your work didn't matter. But I'm trying to do better. And I want to thank you for showing me what true leadership is. Lily paused, her heart racing. She hadn't expected this. She had only spoken up because it was the right thing to do, not for accolades. But here he was, acknowledging her in a way she had never imagined. You don't have to thank me, she said quietly, her voice steady. You just need to keep treating people with respect, and that's all that matters. Donovan smiled, a rare and genuine smile that reached his eyes. "I will," he promised. And with that, they both continued their work, side by side, with a new understanding between them. Lily's life didn't change dramatically. She wasn't suddenly wealthy or famous, but she had done something far more powerful. She had changed the heart of one of the most powerful men in the world. And in doing so, she had made a difference in the lives of everyone around her. Months passed, and the changes James Donovan had made within his company became more and more evident. What started as a small shift in his leadership style had turned into a full-scale transformation. Donovan had become known for his newfound approach to leadership, one that valued respect, dignity, and fairness for all employees. It wasn't always easy, and there were moments when he doubted whether his efforts would be enough to undo years of ingrained habits. But every small victory fueled his resolve. Lily, for her part, continued with her work, quietly observing the changes around her. She had never asked for recognition, nor did she need it. The respect that Donovan was now showing people like her, people who had once been invisible in the eyes of the powerful, was enough. But as much as things had improved at the company, Donovan still had one more thing he needed to do. One afternoon, he called Lily to his office. He had been thinking about this for weeks, but he hadn't known how to approach it. As she walked into his office, she was met with a warmth in his eyes that she hadn't seen before. "Lily," he began, his voice sincere, "I've been thinking about how far we've come, about the changes we've made, but there's still more to do, and I want to make sure that you're a part of it." Lily looked at him, unsure of where this conversation was headed. Donovan continued, "I want you to know that your voice matters. I never realized that until you showed me what true leadership looks like. And I want to give you a platform to share your ideas, your thoughts. You've shown me that a single person can change everything." Lily felt her heart race. She hadn't expected this. She had only spoken up because it was the right thing to do, but now Donovan was offering her something that seemed unimaginable. "What are you saying?" she asked, her voice cautious but curious. "I want you to join our leadership team," Donovan said. "I want you to have a seat at the table. Your perspective is invaluable. We need people like you who understand the value of respect, who understand what it's like to be overlooked. You're not just the maid's daughter anymore, Lily. You're a leader here." Lily's mind raced. The idea of being a part of the company's leadership team was something she had never imagined. She was just a girl from the margins, someone who had spent her life being invisible. But now, Donovan was offering her a place at the very heart of the company. "I don't know what to say," she said quietly. "You don't have to say anything right now," Donovan replied with a smile. "Just know that you belong here. And we need you." In that moment, Lily realized that the power to change didn't always come from the people who held the most wealth or status. Sometimes, it came from those who were willing to speak the truth, no matter how difficult it might be. Lily's story wasn't just about challenging a powerful CEO. It was about showing the world that respect, dignity, and fairness had a place in every corner of society, no matter how small or overlooked that corner might seem. As she left Donovan's office that day, Lily couldn't help but smile. She didn't need recognition or a title, but she was finally going to be part of something bigger, something that would allow her to make a lasting impact. And that, she knew, was more powerful than anything money could buy. It was a new chapter for both Lily and the company. As a newly appointed member of the leadership team, she now sat in the same meetings as the executives, surrounded by people who once dismissed her. Yet, instead of feeling out of place, she found herself more determined than ever to prove that her perspective mattered. The first few weeks were a whirlwind of adjustment. She listened carefully, absorbing everything she could. Donovan, who had once been the epitome of a self-made billionaire, now seemed different. He wasn't the same man who had looked down on her just months before. He was genuinely trying to create a company culture based on respect, fairness, and understanding. He often turned to Lily during meetings, asking for her input on issues that didn't traditionally concern someone in her position. She began to notice a shift not just in the way he treated her, but in how others treated her as well. There was still skepticism, of course. Some of the older executives still couldn't fully embrace the idea of a maid's daughter being part of the leadership team. But Lily didn't let that stop her. She had been underestimated her entire life, and she wasn't about to let anyone else do it now. One afternoon, during a critical meeting about the company's future direction, a situation arose that would put Lily's newfound role to the test. The company was facing a major financial decision, one that could either make or break their next big project. There was tension in the room as the executives debated, each presenting their case for what they believed would lead to success. As the conversation went on, Lily noticed something that no one else seemed to see. There was a major flaw in the proposed financial strategy, one that would lead to devastating consequences in the long run. She didn't hesitate. "I think we're overlooking something." Lily spoke up, her voice steady and calm. The room fell silent. The executive's eyes turned toward her. Donovan raised an eyebrow but said nothing, waiting for her to explain. "If we go through with this plan, we're setting ourselves up for failure," she continued. "The numbers look good in the short term, but the long-term implications haven't been properly addressed. We're not factoring in the risk of market shifts, and we're ignoring the needs of the lower-level employees who actually drive the day-to-day operations." The room remained still as everyone processed her words. Lily felt a sudden wave of nerves, but she didn't back down. She had earned her place at that table, and she wasn't going to let fear silence her. Donovan leaned forward, his gaze thoughtful. After a long pause, he spoke. "You're right," he said, his voice surprising everyone in the room. "We haven't fully considered the long-term impact. Lily, your perspective is invaluable." The rest of the executives nodded in agreement, their skepticism slowly giving way to respect. It was a turning point. In that moment, Lily realized that her voice, her perspective, was no longer just something to be tolerated. It was something to be valued. As the meeting concluded, Donovan turned to her with a rare smile. "You've proven yourself once again," he said. "This company is better because of you." Lily didn't need any more validation. She had already won something far more important, the recognition that her ideas, her voice, and her role in the company mattered. And as she left the meeting that day, she knew she had changed more than just the company. She had changed herself. The transformation within the company was becoming more apparent as the weeks went by. Lily had proven herself to be more than just a voice among the executives. She had become an essential part of the team. Her insights were valued, and she was often consulted for her perspective on key decisions. Donovan, once a man who thought wealth and power were the only things that mattered, had changed. He had become a leader who not only sought financial success, but also focused on the well-being of every employee from the top down. Yet, despite all the progress, there was still one challenge left to face, convincing the rest of the company that this new approach was here to stay. The change in company culture had started at the top, with Donovan's shift in leadership, but now it was time to ensure that it permeated every level of the business. Lily knew that this would be the hardest part. The top executives had begun to accept her, but it was the mid-level managers and employees in other departments who still struggled to accept the idea of someone like her in a position of power. There were whispers in the hallways, sideways glances in the break rooms, and skepticism in the meetings. Many people had spent years in the company, climbing the corporate ladder through hard work, and they found it hard to believe that a girl who had once been invisible could now be part of the leadership team. Lily didn't let it deter her. She knew that change wasn't something that happened overnight. It was a slow process, a constant effort to prove that her ideas, her approach, were not just valid, but vital to the company's future. One day, during a company-wide town hall meeting, Donovan addressed the employees once again. But this time, he made sure Lily was by his side. As they stood together at the front of the room, Donovan looked out at the sea of faces, many of whom had once doubted him and Lily. "We've made a lot of changes here," Donovan said, his voice calm but firm. "And I know some of you are still wondering if this is just a phase, or if it's going to last. But I can assure you, it's not just a phase. It's a new way of doing things, a new way of leading, and it's here to stay." He turned to Lily and nodded. Lily has been a catalyst for these changes. Her courage, her wisdom, and her unwavering commitment to fairness have shown me what true leadership looks like. She's not just the maid's daughter anymore. She's a leader in this company, and she deserves the same respect as anyone else here. There was a brief silence before the room erupted into applause. For the first time, Lily felt the weight of her journey. She wasn't just the girl who had challenged the CEO anymore. She was now part of the very fabric of the company. As the applause died down, Lily stood next to Donovan, her heart racing. She had never expected any of this. She had never imagined that her simple act of speaking up would lead to this moment, to this transformation. She had done what she thought was right, and it had led her here, standing beside a man who had once dismissed her, now acknowledging her as an equal. "Thank you," she said quietly into the microphone. "But this isn't about me. This is about all of us. We're all part of this company, and together, we can make it better. I'm just one voice, but I know that together, we can make a difference." Her words resonated with the crowd, and for the first time, Lily felt like she truly belonged. The journey wasn't over, but in that moment, she realized that the change she had started was real, and nothing would ever be the same again. As the months passed, the atmosphere at the company became increasingly positive. The changes Donovan had introduced, alongside Lily's contributions, began to transform not just the leadership style, but the culture of the entire organization. Employees felt more respected, and their input was valued, no longer just seen as cogs in the machine. Lily, who had once been invisible, now found herself frequently asked for advice on various projects. She had become a role model for many, proving that respect and leadership came from integrity, not wealth or status. Yet, despite all the progress, Lily remained grounded. She didn't let the attention get to her head. Her focus was always on making the company better, creating a workplace where people from all walks of life could feel seen and heard. It was during one of the routine board meetings that something unexpected happened. The company was facing a decision that could change the course of its future, an acquisition that promised to double the company's value but came with its risks. As the discussion unfolded, the board members debated fiercely. Some believed the risks outweighed the rewards, while others saw the potential for enormous profit. Lily listened quietly, her eyes scanning the faces around her. She knew this moment was crucial. As the voices grew louder, she finally spoke up, her calm demeanor cutting through the tension. "We're forgetting something important," she said, her voice steady but firm. All eyes turned to her. Donovan, who had learned to respect her perspective, gave her a small nod, signaling for her to continue. "It's not just about the financials," Lily said. "This acquisition could bring a lot of money, but at what cost? Are we prepared to lose the company's soul? The employees who've worked so hard to build this company are the ones who will bear the brunt if this goes wrong. We need to think long-term, not just about what's in front of us right now." There was a pause in the room. Donovan looked at her, his expression thoughtful. It was clear that Lily wasn't just concerned about the deal itself, but about the people who made the company what it was. The executives, who had been set in their ways for years, now found themselves questioning their own perspectives. For the first time, they saw the value in considering not just profits but the human element behind the decisions. After a tense silence, Donovan finally spoke. "Lily's right," he said, his voice carrying the weight of a leader who had learned humility. "We need to make decisions that protect the values we've worked so hard to build. If this acquisition threatens that, it's not worth it." The room was still for a moment, the gravity of Donovan's words settling in. The board members exchanged glances, the skepticism slowly fading. It was a turning point for the company. Donovan had trusted Lily's judgment, and it had paid off. The decision to hold off on the acquisition was made, but the true victory wasn't in the financial decision. It was in the trust and respect that had been built. The company wasn't just about money anymore. It was about integrity, fairness, and respect. As Lily walked out of the meeting that day, she felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. She hadn't just made a good decision for the company. She had helped ensure that the company would continue to operate with its values intact. And that was something she could be proud of. Donovan walked beside her, his gaze meeting hers. "You've saved us again," he said, a rare smile on his face. "I don't know what I would do without you." Lily smiled back, her heart full, but her focus still on the work ahead. "We're in this together," she replied. "And together, we'll make this company better for everyone." The company had transformed into a place that reflected the values of respect, integrity, and fairness that Lily had championed. Under Donovan's leadership, supported by Lily's guidance, they had built a new culture where every voice mattered, and every employee felt valued. Yet, there was still one final test. Could this new foundation hold up when faced with external pressure? It came one day in the form of a sudden economic downturn. The market, which had been a pillar of the company's success, took a sharp dive, and the financial landscape shifted dramatically. Donovan and his team found themselves once again at a crossroads, with the company's future hanging in the balance. The executives and board members gathered in the conference room, their faces drawn and serious. The mood was different this time. There was no confidence in the room, no easy answers. Everyone understood that the choices they made in the coming days would decide whether they could maintain the progress they had made or if they would fall back into old, familiar patterns of cutthroat decisions and power plays. As the meeting began, Donovan turned to Lily. His voice was calm but filled with an unspoken weight. "Lily, we've come a long way, but this is the real test. How do we handle this?" Lily stood at the head of the table, feeling the pressure that had once seemed so foreign to her. But now, it was a challenge she was ready for. She knew that this moment was critical, not just for the company's financial future, but for the future of everything they had built. "We need to stay true to our values," Lily said, her voice steady and sure. "We can't sacrifice our employees or the integrity of the company just to save a few dollars. We need to be honest, transparent, and make decisions that may not be popular in the short term, but will build the trust we've worked so hard for." Donovan nodded, looking at her with a new level of respect. The other executives shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke out against her. They had seen Lily lead with wisdom before, and now, more than ever, they knew she was right. "We'll focus on sustainability," Donovan said, his voice clear and resolute. "We'll cut unnecessary costs, but we will protect our people. We won't make layoffs to make the numbers look better. We'll be transparent with our employees and show them the same respect we've been preaching." Over the next few months, the company faced tough times. There were difficult decisions to make, and not everyone was happy with the changes. But Lily's words rang true. Their commitment to the employees, to their integrity, paid off. The company didn't just survive the downturn, they emerged stronger. The employees, who had once been worried about their futures, rallied behind Donovan's leadership, knowing that their well-being came first. As the economy began to recover, Donovan called Lily into his office. He smiled, a rare, genuine smile. "We did it," he said. "You were right. We stuck to our values, and now we're in a stronger position than ever." Lily smiled back, but it wasn't the smile of someone looking for praise. It was the smile of someone who had seen the power of doing the right thing, even when it wasn't the easiest option. "We did it together," she said softly. And in that moment, Lily realized that her journey had come full circle. She had started as a girl who was invisible, a girl who dared to speak up when no one else would. But now, she was a leader, not just in title, but in the hearts of the people around her. The company was better because of her, but more importantly, the people she worked with were better because they had seen the power of respect, fairness, and courage. And as she walked out of Donovan's office, she knew that this was just the beginning of the kind of leadership that would continue to make a difference in the world. In this inspiring tale of transformation, we dive into the world of a young girl who challenges the most powerful man in the room, a millionaire CEO. Through a series of courageous decisions, she helps shift the direction of the company, proving that respect and integrity can lead to true success. This millionaire story is a powerful reminder that success isn't always defined by wealth alone, but by the way we treat those around us. As the CEO learns valuable lessons about leadership and humility, the story unfolds, revealing how even the smallest voice can create monumental change. Join us as we explore one of the most impactful millionaire stories, where respect and fairness take center stage. As the young girl rises from being invisible to a key decision-maker, this millionaire story proves that sometimes real wealth is measured by the ability to lift others up. Get ready for an unforgettable journey filled with courage, transformation, and the power of doing what's right in this heartwarming millionaire story.